Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. My people, listen, this is important. I don't want to talk too long about this, and shouts out to others in the black manosphere who have talked about this. When you see hyenas go to predominantly Muslim areas and they act out, that is because they don't know how to behave themselves anywhere. Bali is in a predominantly Muslim country, but many of the people in Bali are not. It's easy for people to forget in which nation they are when they go to Bali. Indonesia is a place that has allowed the provinces to make many of their own criminal laws. Some of them have the Sharia, Islamic law. And in there, grocery stores have different lines for men and women. They will flog you for things like rape or fornication. They may even cut your head off for drug smuggling. Just decapitate you, behead you. There was a time when in Indonesia in general, even in Jakarta, drug smugglers were afraid to be shot dead at the airport, according to what a former military guy told me. I don't know how true it is. I would imagine they'd at least give you a trial, but the trial hell, if they have a courthouse at the airport, that's where they conduct the trial. All right, so whose drugs are these? Is that the traveler and whose bags of drugs were found? Yes. All right. Well, you packed your bags. They're your bags. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing you can say at this point. You're guilty and we're about to execute you. Now that's if, like I said, that's if they had the courthouse in the airport. And maybe they did put one there just for cases like this. In any case, if it wasn't true, then it wasn't true. But in any case, you don't want to smuggle drugs into these areas. I also want to tell you that right now in Malaysia, they don't have an attitude against black people. They just don't like Nigerians that they know are Nigerian. And that's largely because Northerners, they can't really tell. Northerners are usually Muslim with Muslim names. They have to find out where they're from. By that time, they're already cool with them. But what happens is that you come from the South and you've got these Igbo sounding names, they already don't like you. And they don't see the women as women. I know, they told me this. They said that they barely see Nigerians as human because they're so mean and aggressive, and they don't see the women as women because they act like the men. They did not say this about any other black folks except for Nigerians. And unfortunately, I was not in a position to defend them because other Africans had told me you got to watch out for Nigerians. And I know they meant the Southerners, but that's what they had said. In any case, I pretty much later on realized that the Yoruba were not the issue, so who does that leave? But nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and state this too. When you have the UK and the US hyenas going there and acting a fool in a place like Bali, which has a good infrastructure, I want those of you that are not experienced travelers to understand that areas that get a lot of tourists are designed for this, so they have infrastructure. So with a little thinking ahead, you can avoid stuff like this. If they downloaded the Indonesian language package to their phones on Google Translate when they had Wi-Fi, then when they get somewhere without it, they still have it. Without internet, they can still have the language package. So if I download right now Spanish, in case I forget, although my internet right now here where I live is crap, and that's why I can't get the names of these two ladies. No, it's that bad. My internet is that bad. I'll never get, every time I look and I click on one of the search results, it never loads. All of them don't load. Black Enterprise doesn't load. Yahoo News doesn't load. They're all crap. It's because of the internet service where I live. So I don't even know the names of these women. But what I can tell you was that, in a nutshell, it's if I go to work and I download the Spanish language pack, and then for whatever reason I have to go to Spain or another Spanish-speaking country tomorrow, and I know I'm going to forget certain things, I don't have to wait until I have the internet in order to do it. I can simply pull the phone out even with no internet, run the translator, type in, and that's it. So if I want to tell someone that they double charge, well, I don't know what a double charge, I don't know what the verb double charge would be. In Spanish, I can look it up, and I don't need the internet. And I know the Indonesian language package, which is separate from Malaysia's, by the way, can be downloaded. They could have easily avoided this and said, we just have to go to the cash machine to get you all the money for this. Can I leave something important with you? If they had said that and they punctuated properly to make sure that the translation also had a question mark, making it polite, they could have gotten off of this. They could have prevented this. This was Bali. They were not out in the countryside, no internet service, nothing like that. They just didn't think ahead. They went, they splurged, they didn't think. Each one probably expected the other one to bring the money. The other thing too was this. They already are leery of women couples that might actually be romantic couples. They're sick of that. That's the other thing. And so they may not necessarily know which women are just couples of friends and which ones are couples of more than friends. Their memory is still fresh with the last arrest of, I think it was 2 black women again that were into that 9AY stuff. And I think they overstayed a visa or something to do with what they didn't pay as well. Something like that. Like I said, Indonesia's not playing around, and the provinces are not playing around. They get to make their own determinations in a lot of cases. Then refer you over to the federal deportation courts. Do not forget about Tierra Allen, the trucker, who got arrested in Dubai for a mouth. What's happening now is that because people are beginning to associate Western black women and Southern Nigerians with nasty attitudes, they're not going to be patient at all. They're tolerating nothing. The other thing that's happening is this. Karen used to be the face of entitlement. But since Sapphire is willing to raise her voice in other people's territories, Karen is falling back. Karen is now saying, I might feel entitled and better, but now I've got Sapphire to speak that out for me, so I'll just fall back and I'll play good cop. And Sapphire's falling for it. Wherever Sapphire goes, she has to show that she's strong and independent, strong black woman, independent, don't need no man and ain't scared of no man. She has to show this, and they did that in Bali. And one grabbed the other one, and I think that's really what got them in trouble. They weren't held hostage because otherwise they would not have been arrested trying to board a plane for Bangkok. That means they still owe the money. That's what that means. And they grabbed someone. That means they actually did leave without paying after they grabbed someone. Let this be a lesson to us. Karen has been the face of entitlement for a long time, and people have generally looked at black folks, when you go abroad, generally people have looked at black folks as not being a part of the American problem. We were not stereotyped as being the ugly American tourist in any case. But now they're looking at the women like, no, she's part of the problem too. Mark my words, they're going to start having a different price for the negress. Different places with tourist populations are going to start having different price menus for the negress. I'm not joking. How do you know? Black business owners along the Gulf Coast or a little bit inland from the Gulf Coast did the same thing after Katrina. They actually didn't have a different price menu. They would close their doors. What's the reason? They said if we saw fat black women walking towards us and we did not know them, we knew they were evacuees from New Orleans and we were not going to deal with them in large numbers. Nope, never mind. They knew the stereotypes and they weren't effing around. And it's bad. The stereotypes, I mean, they're bad. They're quite bad. I'll tell y'all straight up, I'll tell y'all right now, one of the biggest turnoffs to me is a New Orleans accent. Now, that's a rough thing to say. But I just expect triflingness if I hear that coming from a lady. From the guys, it could be anything. The guy could sound like that and be any kind of way, good, bad, in between. But if I hear that New Orleans accent coming from a sister, and there is a black New Orleans accent too. Whites don't have that. If I hear that black New Orleans accent coming from a sister, I know it's gonna be some shit. Sisters from New Orleans and Memphis have some of the worst reputations amongst black folks anywhere. And I can tell you they earn it. So in any case, let me let you know that when these black business owners along the Gulf Coast begin to realize that their businesses were better off just closed in the faces of these New Orleans sisters. And how did they identify? Well, the one that told my mother about it said he knew what it was if he saw several fat black women that he did not know. They were not from that city, walking towards his business. Close the doors. We ain't open yet. You got to give us another hour. Open up, we's hungry. Because he knew they were going to be uncouth, because other business owners had told him how they wished they'd done the same thing. Yeah, that's what you're facing. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And abroad, they may not close the businesses. They may simply say, okay, I see several black women walking our way. Any man with them? No. Can you tell what country they're from? One walks like an American. Something like that. Okay, no man with them. We can't tell the nationality. They're not Somali or Sudanese or South African. We're not sure. You know what? Go ahead and everybody, does everyone have the Negress menu price or the Negress price menu memorized? Yes, we got it. Okay, that's how much everything cost. See, in Malaysia, they meet black folks from different places. In Indonesia, probably it's just the UK, the US, and Nigeria. And the women of each southern Nigeria that it included have a bad reputation. In Malaysia, they also meet Somalis and Sudanese and South Africans as well. They don't have a problem with black folks. They got a problem with Nigerians. And they pretty much mean the southern Nigerians. But what happens if all they start to meet are the ones that give the problems? What's going to happen next? I don't have to tell you. I don't really need to talk about why it is that they did what they did. I understand it, but I'm not going to go into why that much largely, because I don't want to seem like I'm making an excuse. I'm not accepting any excuse for that. Maybe there is a valid excuse. How the hell would I know? I have to say, in response to that, I have to say the same thing that I say to my students. When my students come with excuses, doctor, I swear to God, yeah, you know what? How the hell do I know though? How do I know that that's actually what happened? You may be telling the truth, but I have to ask that question, young man, because every time I give an assignment, I get a bunch of excuses. I never just give an assignment and give the directions and you all do fuck the work I told y'all to do and come to me without the excuses. I never do. If I give you 3 days to do it, I get the same excuses as if I only gave y'all 1 day. The internet was out. What about the 2 nights before that? Well, I didn't do it those nights. Well, screw you. I'm going to take an F. That's what I had to do last semester. One kid, I remember his name, I nicknamed him Nappy Top. That was a compliment. But he always had an excuse. He had ADHD, he has ADHD. He told me he has it. But his mom doesn't want him to take the medicine because she doesn't. I said to him, your mama's a woman and doesn't have to take responsibility for men. You're a man that's going to have to be responsible for a family if you want to get married. You cannot get married if you don't take this medicine that she doesn't want you to take because you're a fuck up without it. And that's just what it is. You're not a dumb kid, but you might as well be because you keep forgetting basic stuff because you don't focus on anything. Like I never give instructions to the classroom that you don't ask me to repeat later because you weren't focused. You're going to fail if you don't do what I told you. Take that damn medicine. If you got to sneak it, sneak it. You're 18 now. It was that bad. And I had to tell him, I won't take excuses from you. From you, I will not accept any excuses, even ADHD. You don't do an assignment by the due date, you just fail. What did he do? He came back one Wednesday. He came back on a Wednesday. He had not done the assignment. I gave it to them on Monday. They had Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday. They had Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night to do it. He came back on Wednesday. He didn't have it. I was like, why didn't you? Well, the internet went out. Okay, I don't care. You know why? That was yesterday. What about the previous 2 nights? Well, I didn't do the assignment then. Okay, well, then that was your dumbass fault. You took a gamble and you lost. You waited till the last night and you lost the gamble. You failed. I have to be this way with the students because if I'm willing to take excuses, even when they're legitimate, all I'll ever get are excuses. And that's why I'm not going to go so much into why they did it. I'll tell you what I understand and you'll understand something I don't and you can tell me. But this is for our understanding, not for us to excuse them. I submit that they got into this issue because of poor planning, bad attitude. And because they feel the stress of the way that the economy is and trying not to go back to the States and the UK. I understand that they're probably stressed out at the thought of that. I do realize that Western women in general have been behaving more strangely because of the stress. They're having meltdowns in the West and outside. My wife has observed this. Some of the women in the West that don't even know her that well are reaching out to her through different social media platforms where they may know someone in common and they're asking her, how did you get work over there in Saudi? Well, the answer to that is we got on the ark before the rain started. You're now looking for an escape from the flood after the rains have begun and they won't stop. That's different. We are not the same. But they're asking my wife dumb stuff like this. She said that somebody asked her that and got mad because she didn't answer the question right away. Well, we're in the final exams time. Yeah, we're busy. We're going to read things and take a long time to answer. She asked me what's going on that people are behaving like this and had to tell her, well, a lot of the men are checking out. they're either living by themselves and, you can't reach them. Maybe they're off the grid or living in a car, or they've left the country. A lot of men are taking on different skill sets so they don't have to stay in the U.S. because it's that bad. A lot of these ladies are by themselves. And they're facing eviction notices, and they owe 8 months rent, and eviction notice is coming, and they're facing these things and they don't know what to do. They're trying not to become homeless, but that's what they're about to face. They're about to become homeless. And that's the end of it. Landlords aren't going down in rent. They're not forgiving past due rent. None of that. You're going to be on them streets if you don't pay, and you're not going to make enough money to pay, because who the hell has to pay you that much? No matter how hard you work, nobody's forced to pay you that much, so you're just stuck. They're looking for ways out. They're desperate. And if they don't get an answer quick like that in a hurry, it's hopeless. So when she asked you and you didn't answer right off the bat, if she was facing all this stress, then she just didn't get a solution to her problem. She didn't even get an answer to a question. So she flipped out. They're facing stress like this, and sometimes when they're abroad, they're going to act this stuff out, and people are going to say, okay, now we're going to make you pay even more. And I will say this to men or women. If people are going to hustle you and finesse you about prices because they can, that is wrong. But that's usually going to happen where there's not much infrastructure anyway. And secondly, there are some possible ways to at least avoid getting the police involved. And that can be done with some politeness and at least downloading the language pack on Google Translate that you were going to need, while also making an effort to explain things in their language. Showing that you don't mean any harm. Being willing to say things, if you're using English or their language, being willing to say things slowly and carefully, and asking them, did I say this correctly, or did I pronounce this correctly? When they see this type of respect, then and the willingness to at least adjust communicatively, they actually are less likely to do these things to you, to harm you, to double charge you, things like that. Unfortunately, black women don't have that kind of reputation right now. At least certain nationalities don't. So if they don't come acting this way, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. I myself, if I owned a business in a place like this, I wouldn't give the Western sister the benefit of the doubt if they came in numbers. Now, maybe one by herself, sure, but 2 or 3 of them in numbers, no benefit of the doubt, none. And I come from Black Americans. The least bit of attitude that I see in one of them when they have a conversation with each other would throw out all doubts for me. I'd say, nope, they're guilty. One other thing, if you know a sister in the West well enough to have this conversation, let them know that in going abroad, Karen was the face of entitlement and the ugly American. She was the stereotype in the face of this. Now Karen is falling back in the West. I've watched it. They're falling back because they figure Sapphire's she'll go ahead and act a fool, and we just sit back and we get to play good cop. Well, I'm the good Westerner. I'm not like her. Which is pretty much what, a lot of the good sisters in the community were doing when the Ratchetisha started acting ratchet. They'd fall back. Hey, I'm not like her. I'm soft and feminine. And then she could play certain games that would go undetected because our sensitivity was heightened, or rather we were desensitized to them. All she had to do was just tone it down and she could run game too. They knew what they were doing. Karen's doing the same thing. And Karen is probably saying, this is great. Let Sapphire go abroad. I'll get more of what I want by asking nicely, because the alternative is they deal with her when she gets mad. And that's what you're facing. And Sapphire is going to be the face of this now. Already that's happening in certain places. She's becoming the face of it. And Sapphire is going to get treated in ways that are just horrible. And you don't want to be around for that. They're going to act a fool. And if you're there, they're going to act even worse, get in trouble, and then look to you. That's what's going to happen. You want to not be there. And as a matter of fact, you might want to pretend like your English ain't that good. Because in all honesty, why they do it is nice to know, as long as you don't take it as an excuse. But the effects are going to be more important. And what you need to know, simply put, is that you can't afford to answer that call to bail them out of a damn thing when they get themselves into it. I hope that what I've said helps out and has been a benefit. Thank you all again for listening. And as always, black heart, black mind, black out. As always, black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with us on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.